Joining me now is Lee Kuan Yew. As Singapore's founding father, he served as Prime Minister for more than 30 years until 1990. He now serves as a minister mentor to the current Prime Minister, his son. I am pleased to have him back on this program. Several years ago, we recorded an hour program at Harvard where he was being honored, and we got such a remarkable response that I am pleased to have him back to talk about how he sees the world and especially how he sees his region. But let's begin talking about the world. The most important issue facing an American president, I suspect, is the battle against terror and national security. What would you tell the president or the next president we need to do?
I think it's not just he who is facing this problem of terror. We are all facing it. I'm facing it in Singapore. We got to understand what this is all about. It's not about Fallujah or Iraq or Beslan. This thing has been in the brew for some 30 plus years, in retrospect. I used to watch my Muslims, and in Southeast Asia the Muslims are different. They're relaxed, they're easy to get on with. But over the last 30-odd years, since the oil crisis and petrodollars became a major factor in the Muslim world, they have been proselytizing, building mosques, religious schools, madrasas, where they teach Wahhabism, an austere brand of Islam, and sending out preachers and having conferences, globalizing, networking. And slowly they have convinced the Southeast Asian Muslims, and indeed Muslims throughout the world, that the gold standard is Arabia, Saudi Arabia. That is the real good Muslim. And the result is...
But that's not what Osama bin Laden teaches, because he in fact wants to overthrow the regime in Saudi Arabia.
But let me explain why what the Saudis and the other Arab countries did in raising the religiosity, the level of fervor throughout the world, has done for Osama bin Laden. Having worked it up to a fine pitch, and everybody feels, yes, we are closer to God, he then scouts around for the vulnerable, those who feel they need redemption, that they've sinned, they need to redeem themselves, and recruit them to become jihadists. And that's where the world's problems begin. Why have they done this? Well, they say it's because Americans have supported the Israelis, who have been cruel and oppressive to the Palestinians. Partly true. They say the Russians have killed the Chechens. Also true. They say the Serbs killed the Muslims in Bosnia. Also true. That they killed the Albanians, the Kosovos,
the Russians in Afghanistan.
And so on and so on. What we didn't realize, I did not know this at the beginning. I thought all this very odd, until we found that we are enveloped in this same relentless drive to assert Islam's right to supremacy. This particular brand of Islam.
Radical fundamentalists?
Yes, yes. They don't consider all these separate incidents to be disparate events connected with each country. It's every act of cruelty, every atrocity, every massacre of any Muslim anywhere in the world is a crime to all Muslims anywhere in the world. So let us all join together and hit out at those who hit us. And who is the ringleader? America. So let's kill Americans.
Because it's the strongest nation, and because it's a close friend of Israel, because
it is. Because its armies have occupied,
50% of the West Bank, Gaza, and Palestine. 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 50% of the W have been on our soil. I mean, Osama bin Laden was most offended, for example, by the fact that American troops were in his home nation, Saudi Arabia.
But you're now out of it, but he's not satisfied. What he wants is to get hold of the oil of the Gulf states, have Taliban-type regimes. Then he's got all the industrial countries, Christian Europe, America, Japan, China, the lot, by the road. Then they have their Muslim caliphate across the world. Now, what have I done in Singapore to offend him? That he wanted to, he and his affiliates, the JI, Jama'ah Islamiyah in Southeast Asia, were planning 7 huge car bombs of 2 tons of nitrates each. Each one of them twice the size of the Oklahoma City bomb.
In Singapore?
Yes, yes. For December 2001. One for the American embassy, another for the Israeli, the British, the Australians, the American school, the club where the Americans have their sports, an underground railway station where the Americans debus to go to this sports center. 7 of them would have caused enormous damage. What have we done? Nothing. All we've done is to have allowed American aircraft and American ships to use our harbor and our airports. So we are lackeys of the Americans. We deserve to be punished.
So the question is, first,
Yes.
Do you think the Iraqi war has aided in the conflict with terrorism and with radical fundamentalists, wherever they come from, or do you think it has served to distract from the primary battle?
It's a bit of both. Suppose you had not attacked Iraq. Would the world be a safer, nicer place? I don't think so.
Well, the argument is not that it would be a safer, nicer place, but that in fact the battle against terrorism might have been been prosecuted with more focus, and perhaps they would have been able to carry the battle in Afghanistan deeper, and perhaps they would not have given radical fundamentalists a recruiting message more than they had before the war in Iraq began.
Well, that was the view of a terrorist expert who is now based in Singapore.
Who sat at this table with me.
Yeah. How is that?
He came here and talked to me.
Oh, Rohan Gunaratnam.
Yes, yes.
Right. Several years ago, just before 9/11, no, after 9/11 and before the Bali bomb, he decided to move from St. Andrews to Singapore. So I read about it in the newspaper, so I said, well,
why is he coming here?
Yes, so I asked to see him. He said because he thinks from all the signs show Southeast Asia will be the next field of operations after Afghanistan, now that they were disrupted. And he said this to me 2 weeks before the Bali bomb went off. I met him again recently. He was against going into Iraq. He said this is a distraction. I wasn't sure. I'm not an expert. So before I left on this journey to Paris and here, I wanted to update myself. I've read all the reports, so I said, what's your take? And he said, well, they have been disrupted in Southeast Asia, but they are multiplying new recruits. The actual perpetrators are being punished, but the people who are producing these jihadis are still going on doing so. So I said, why are there not more terrorist attacks which you thought was coming?